Good evening, everyone. This is Lucius Aurelian, and welcome to Aurelian's Fair live stream, as it was formerly known as. And we're going to begin our exploration of the Tartarian Era together tonight. I'm going to do this one a little bit different, though. I want to engage a little bit more of the open conversation with all of you, but we'll examine a few images. We'll start with looking at the artworks of Benjamin Sack, and then we're going to look at some of the views that we've had of Tartaria in the past. And then I thought we would close it out by doing a little bit of a joint exploration on building number one, at least for this channel, the Iowa State Capitol. So as everybody's getting logged on, I'll just go ahead and give everybody the customary greeting, the greeting that I enjoy. And by the way, I'll just reassure everybody, this is not Kevin Costner, although somebody suggested this voice may sound like Kevin Costner. I promise you, I'm not Kevin Costner. Stand by to redeem that vow. Get off your knees. All right. Hey, New World Over. Good to see you. Old World McMac. Sarah, gonna miss you. CJ Trickster, welcome. Hey, Kevin. Hi, Sky Sage. Sherry Pretty, gonna miss you as well. Hey, Just Frank. Rebecca, good to see you as always. Songbird Collage Arts, welcome. Misnomer, good to see you. Hey, Chimpy. Old World Hamster Wheel Cranes, got that name back. Good to see it. Songbird, yep. USA Veteran, welcome. Hey, Watchman, good to see you. Jamie, welcome. Jeff Six, good to see you. Jodio from Memphis, welcome. Hey, Laura, good to see you. What's our real story? Good to see you. Jimmy B-Side, welcome. Patricia Vieira, welcome. Timothy Hoy, good to see you. All right, I'm starting to get caught up there. Adam Baum, good to see you, my brother. Hidden in Plain Sight, good to see you. Easy Money, welcome. Kevin, Jamie, all right. Just making sure I got everybody. And Dwayne, it's good to see you as well. Can't stop dancing with wolves then. Southern Ontario Sasquatch, welcome. All right. Well, it's good to see everybody. That's the initial greeting. I'll say hi as everybody else comes on in. So I'm just going to go ahead and assume you can hear me just fine. And if not, just let me know. So what we're going to take a look at here is the artworks of Benjamin Lucius Costner. No, I'm not quoting that movie. Okay. Well, we're going to start by taking a look at artist Benjamin Sack. And Benjamin Sack was a graduate of Virginia Commonwealth University from the early 2010s. And I'll attach a link to the live stream when we're done so you can go check out his site and his artwork. One of the reasons that I selected it is I always found that his artwork seems to give a really good customary presentation of what Tartaria may have looked like. Now, here's the thing. We don't have any idea. Hey, Kathy, good to see you. Hey, Sea Goddess, welcome. We don't have any exact idea of what Tartaria looked like. And so what I think the artworks of Benjamin Sack does is it does give us some sort of interpretation. Now you can go read for yourself what his artwork is about on the site, but what I find he does is he manages to combine both architecture and a very unique geometric precision, and yet with some humanity. And I think that's what makes it unique. And that's not what you see with all the what we call AI presentations now. So, yeah. Old World Hamster Wheel Cranes. Okay. So let's take a closer look here at this particular one. Now, I have used this image before, and I think what's unique about it is how it depicts some of the domed buildings, and yet we have other different type of buildings. So remember that what you're looking at here is a depiction. It's a work of art. And yet at the same time, I have the idea that there are some people who have a little bit more of a memory of what Tartaria may have looked like in their subconscious memory. And I think this particular individual, this Benjamin Sack, does happen to have that. He may not be consciously aware of it, but what he presents on the art, it really seems to give that impression very well. And you can see it here with the way these buildings are arrayed. Now, you do see signs of symmetry with this, and you might think, it's maybe a little brutalist, but you combine in how it's all arranged together. There seems to be a unique geometry to it, and yet at the same time, there's an organic quality to it as well. Yep, thanks. What's our real story? I appreciate that. Yeah, please hit the like button as you're coming on in. But what's really unique, though, is you have the larger buildings that seem to be in nexus points. And you'll see this as we go through some of the other works of art that Benjamin Sack has done. But then, hey, Alex Dunn, good to see you. But then when you zoom in here and you take a look at the larger dome building with the large tower buildings all around it, you get the feeling that there may have been something that appeared like that. So, yeah, exactly, Jeff Six. It would be an amazing thing to see. And I think this is really the closest that we can come to it. And it's one of the reasons why I wanted to start the presentation with these works of art. So, hey, May May. But then you look at some of the taller buildings in the back, and that also comes into question is just exactly how tall could they have built in the past? Because the theory that we have, the prevailing theory, is that we don't really see any of the greatest remaining structures from the Tartarian era. They were destroyed because they really couldn't let us see them because it would be too obvious if we ever saw a city like this. Yeah, that's a good one right there. Fractal nature to the architecture. And I think that's one of the hardest things to really replicate. And that's not what you're going to see when you look at the AI composites of it. Now, I'm not denigrating the AI. I know, you've got my presentations on AI, but I think it really comes down to, yep, you got it. I think it really comes down to what comes from a human connection to what transpired in the past. And that's why I think this depiction tends to work a little bit better. Oh, yes, that's a very good point. Old world hamster wheel cranes. Well, I can tell you what is not art, and what is not art tends to be brutalist architecture. Hey, Jamma Barker, good to see you. Welcome, my bailiwick zone. Hope the fishing's going well. Well, and I don't want to be direct about the presentationers saying that exclusively it sucks, but there are aspects of it that it seems to be we are very much pushed or encouraged to do so. I mean, you can all look around and you can see that AI is pushed very hard by the mainstream and even by many people in the alternative research community. That doesn't necessarily make it bad. It's like any other tool that we have. Well, it's good to have you here. And so, yeah, exactly. Pyramids in the isolated industrial areas, so to speak. And so I think what's important about it is that you get the idea that it's a combination. It's a combination of both human and machine working in tandem. And I think that was what we managed to achieve in the previous era. Hey, Chris Johnson, welcome. We managed to achieve that kind of structure where you could integrate a city with nature. You could achieve this kind of architecture and you could arrange it and lay it out to where it would actually be useful and at the same time beautiful. Ah, what's our real story's got it. You're absolutely right. Good question, Kevin. Let me get to that in a second. But the rivers being prominently featured, that's exactly right. And I'm intending to do an exploration on rivers because I believe that there was a little bit more of something with rivers and how they tied together the main nexus points of the previous civilization. And who knows, rivers may have originally been a form of canal. And I know that sounds like a very almost absurd notion to make, but there's actually a lot of evidence that there's observations of rivers flowing the opposite direction, such as the Mississippi with the New Madrid Fault and the earthquake back in supposedly the early 19th century. So now back to Kevin's question here. How many people could live in the city? Well, we don't exactly know. I mean, they could have been laid out for mass concentrated living, or perhaps they tended to live in the countryside and simply operated in the city with a good mass transportation system. And you might be asking, well, how could that be practical? Well, if you have a very large transportation system and if you have a well designed, well laid out city, which let's be honest, it is possible, they certainly want us to think that it's not possible, but it is possible, it can be done, then your population could be anything from tens of millions, or it could simply be a couple 100,000 that actually administered and cared for the city and people commuted in and out. There's many different possibilities. So, ooh, what do we got here? That could be, Alex. And you know what? I can't disprove that. That could very well be true, that it's always been with us. It's a good point. And it's certainly not something I'm going to discount because, you can't prove it one way or the other. So, yeah, exactly. And you can see how all the rivers run. Yep. Well, and Adam, and most of the rest of us who came up in whatever decade we grew up in, there were all kinds of warnings about AI. I mean, it was a science fiction trope all the way from the 1970s up to the 21st century with the Matrix and everything else. So, oh, there you go, Rebecca. Well, maybe they did. What was that movie? The Rocketeer. So, and that's a great question there, Jama, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. You're right. And I think there's a lot of evidence that rivers could well be man-made or something that's artificial in a way. Well, and that's another point, Dwayne, and that's another good point. And remember, this is an artistic rendering, but it's giving us an idea of what this city could have looked like. Yeah, HAL 2000. I'm surprised they haven't rolled out something like that, but that's probably a little hitting it too much on the head. So, uh, yep, and that it does, Stephen. You're absolutely right. Oh, yeah, that she does, and goes into it in very great detail and ties it together in a geographical sense. Now, I'm going to start doing some explorations. I haven't gotten to it yet, but looking at the size and the shape of the realm, and or the land as I call it, and I know they're going to be very contentious explorations, and that's okay. If I'm not having contention, I'm not doing my job. That's the way I see it. So, all right. We'll go on to the next one. I will make sure that you have the link posted so you can explore these images on your own because I know they're very fascinating images and they're very enjoyable to look at. But what do you think of this one? And let me get in a little closer here so you can see it a little better. And isn't this a unique one? And again, same artist. Oh, what's that one? Yeah, and I think that's right. And who knows what the actual age of the cities are, Mark? You're right. Well, I don't know. There's a couple different theories on it, so it just depends. Yeah. Now, isn't that really unique? Now, just imagine that at such a large scale, a colossal scale like that, where you could really get those kind of images. And I'm gonna keep it zoomed out for right now, just so you can appreciate how it all factors together. And then we'll zoom in and you can see the detail. Now, keep in mind, this was not done by a computer program. This was done by a sketch artist. When you go to the website, you can actually see him working on it. It's very impressive. What do we got here? Probably not. What's our real story? Probably not. Oh, yeah. That's a classic one there, JJ, right down to the cityscapes that you have, especially from beneath the Planet of the Apes. Good call out on that one. Yep, it comes and it works together. Maybe, or maybe it was destroyed by something else, something that we don't completely understand. Hold on, Adam. We're about to zoom in on it. Yes, that is supposed to be a city. It's a very unique depiction of a city. Now, I'm not suggesting that this may have been what a city looked like, but what I'm suggesting is consider if the ability to arrange a city like this did exist at some point. Really what we're doing is we're looking using our minds and using someone's wonderful mind and their ability to depict this kind of art to get an idea of what we have. Radioactive. Oh, yeah. I like that one right there. Don't worry, we got a special presentation coming up on Nuclear Nightmare of Fear, but that'll be on November 20th. And isn't that interesting, Watchmen? Yeah. And that is one way you can see it. But we're going back even before that and getting an idea of what this could have looked like. Okay, so let's zoom in now on this. I'll give you a little idea of the fine detail in this. So you can kind of see you have the same concept of nexus buildings, the same blocks connected together, but then you have the way these buildings are shaped. And if you imagine giving yourself the ability to lay out things on this kind of geometrical scale, then there's really no limits in terms of what you could depict. Hey, Raven Fox, good to see you. Isabella, good to see you. But what it really brings out is something in a city that really defies our current imagination because we haven't even seen anything like this in a science fiction movie. We can get an idea of it, and I think this is a great way to get an idea of it and what it can really reflect to us. And I'm not kidding when I say you can get lost in looking at this for quite some time. So, what are your thoughts on this particular image? Yeah, exactly, Adam. Let me get that one up there. Star forts are foundation structures everywhere you go. And keep in mind, this was likely what the fourth era may have been capable of. And remember, yeah, it could well be Jeff 6. And it could be that in the distant past, we had a much greater building capability that was even further than this, that managed to establish many different levels with all of this. So, nope, nor a democracy either, Lone Yukon. That's absolutely right. So, yeah, in a lot of respects, it is. And it's laid out that way, too. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how he got the impression or the inspiration to do it, but it's very impressive. So, all right, let's go to the next one here. Now, here what you have is a little bit more of a more complex cityscape. You're looking at a fully developed cityscape. And what he's done here is he's transposed some of the major historical buildings and even some of the hypothetical ones on this drawing here, and you can get an idea of what it would be like if you had all these buildings together in the cityscape. You've got the Colosseum there. You've got what looks to be the Tower of Babel. What do we got here? Oh, yeah. And that it does line up very well. It's all in there together. Is it Babel or is it Babel? Well, if you watch Star Trek, it's Babel. Yeah, exactly, Adam. And I think that's another allusion to what may have been, is having those kinds of lines and having that impression available. But then look what you've got back here. This very large pyramid building, which is even larger than the Tower of Babel. When we talk about some of the more elaborate buildings, such as the Beacon of Progress, or at least elaborate structures, I should say. Well, was the Beacon of Progress real? Did it exist? Was there a point at time that we could actually build something like the Beacon of Progress? Or, even more so, did it exist and they just don't want us to know about it? Yeah, good one, Maxwell. Simple cowboy construction. Yeah, absolutely right. And you ask those questions, and what's that represent? Yeah, just those cowboys, they could do this. There you go. What's our real story? And so I remember when I started the 5 eras theory, and one of the things I thought was, okay, well, in the first or the second era that we now call the foundation eras, maybe they had the capability to build buildings larger than mountains. But perhaps that was as recent as the fourth era, because what would really stop them if they had a unified civilization? Yeah, that's a good one. What's our real story? Nope, no horse-drawn trolleys in that city. So, hey, Savannah, welcome. Good to see ya. And welcome from Sweden. Hi-Fi and interiors. Oh, that's a cool one. Oh, yeah. And isn't it funny you bring that up there, old world hamster wheel cranes? Yeah, it does have a very familiar look to it as well. And I'll even throw out a call out to my favorite movie. If you go back and you watch Kroll, just look at some of the geometry of the White Castle, or the Granite Castle at the beginning, the one that the Slayers raid, and look at some of the interiors on that. Supposedly those were sets. I don't know. But all right, let's go on to the next one. Now, here you have a little bit more of a close-up, and this gives you something that seems like it's a little bit more real and something we'd be more capable of, because here we've seen these nexus patterns and these tight geometry patterns. You can see it in Washington, D.C., and there's one of the reasons why you look at Washington, D.C., and it's one of the great examples of how you can find it, although you can find it in many different cities, the way these geometrical patterns line up. But take a look at the complexity of some of these structures, the way they're arranged. And what you have here, yeah, that's true, Kevin. I mean, he's a sketch artist, so it's with a drawing. But yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I wish we could see it with more colors, but at least it gives us an idea. So, well, perhaps it doesn't make sense to us, but maybe they had other means possible that we're not fully aware of. That's something we need to keep our minds open to. Or perhaps it's not a correct depiction, and it's just something that we're looking at for a theory. Yeah, exactly. Old world Billy Goat. That's always an interesting question right there. Yeah, is the arch built for structural integrity or decorative? Well, I think you could make an argument that it's both. So, all these sketches that he's done, I believe, are from the early 2010s. But when you go to the website, you can look at each of them. So, technically, it did precede the advent of the old world research movement, at least in its current form. I mean, it certainly existed prior to the 2010s. It was just under a different name. Typically, they called it Atlantis Alternative Research. You can definitely go back and look at the works of Graham Hancock, although, he really he takes it on the surface, but tends not to go further or in detail with it. But it was definitive alternative research. So, yeah, exactly. Salvation armies and post offices. And where I get these ideas that this could have been a reality and this could have existed is when we consider those Salvation armies and post offices. I mean, all those post offices that we've seen. You can see examples here of buildings that are very real buildings that do exist and still stand to this day, like I featured in the intro to the video. Such as St. Paul, whether it's St. Paul in London or it's St. Paul in St. Paul, Minnesota, because we did show those cathedrals. And interestingly enough, they're about the same size. Yeah, exactly. Energized blueprints. And so I think it boils down to that. Yeah, right. Or they'd say they did it in 1 year. Oh, yeah, no doubt about it, and it's kind of interesting because once someone appears a little bit more in the mainstream, then you get an idea for what they're really about, but and remember when I laid this out, oh, there you go, yeah, Kirkbride layout. Remember when we began this, what we're really talking about is the fact that these are just artistic impressions, but this gives us an idea of what it may have looked like, and here's another one where you got a little bit more of a close up and you can still see the figures built in the building. So, yeah, exactly. Yeah, sacred geometry layout, and that's what it looks like. So, yeah, I haven't caught that show for a while. So, giant ants. Yep. And here's another, a little bit more of an interesting one. So, this is really just showing some of his artistic capacity. And remember, this is artwork, but I find it a little bit more inspiring to use artwork done by a real human being and to use that to try to visualize the past than to try to use some sort of program to do it, whatever that program may be. Yeah, exactly. And it does look like an amplifier circuit board without a doubt. Yeah, I agree with you on that one, Gemma. GI ants. I don't know what happened. I have no idea. I haven't heard any rumors or anything. And I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of us content creators know just as much as the viewers do. So I do not know. But if I hear anything, I'll be sure to let you know. And I think that's the very root right there. What's our real story of the five eras theory, at least for me. And I think that's why I'm going to rework that and do a fresh presentation on that. So there'll be a fresh video on the five eras theory coming out soon. Well, a little mix of both there, Lone Yukon. Artwork and collective memory that we're seeing here. Yeah, that's true too, Jeff Six. Life does happen. Yeah, absolutely. And imagine that kind of technological capability too, Adam. Good comment there, Rebecca. I was going to put some MC Escher works in, but I thought that might be going a little bit too far. One of the reasons why I wanted to feature Benjamin Sack here is he's a lot more contemporary. But here you can kind of see some more example of his artwork. And what I find fascinating here is that here he uses a little bit more of an image depiction, and yet it's all depicted on a circle. I always found it funny that everybody was saying I should change my name because, Orbis means globe. No, Orbis means circle or disc, but whatever. Yeah, that's very true. Well, you go digging, you're going to find something. No doubt about it. Now, can you say that what you're seeing here is more of an appropriate two-dimensional depiction of how the land may look? Possibly. I mean, what's this supposed to be? And why is it all two-dimensional? And this is actually two-dimensional, and we're looking at a two-dimensional projection. So, oh yeah, it's some great art, and I'm glad you mentioned that, Rebecca. I think I'm going to add a link to MC as well because there's some great art to look at as well. Ding, 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 ding. Exactly, Adam. Tower of Bubble. Yeah, true enough. Right there, maybe. Oh, yeah. And I think the other interesting thing, though, is you've also got some of the mixture of buildings here and some of the mixing of architectural styles. So, what I'm impressed by is just the amount of detail that goes into this, and to think that this is all just done with a pencil and a sketch. Yeah, there you go. I think there are a few variations on the layout. There's no doubt about it. Oh, yeah. That's a good one there, Tim. I forgot all about Voltron. I remember Voltron. I might have to see if I can get some images from that. Ah, yeah, look at that. What's our real story is seeing the rest of it. Overlapping lands. So now do you see why I would be drawn to this particular artist and what he depicts and how he depicts it? Mm-hmm. Yep. Didn't want to say it because I knew if I just showed it, you'd pick up on it. And that's always the best part about it. I mean, we can all see it. Yeah, and don't try to hop your skateboard over it, okay, old world hamster wheel cranes? Yeah, back in the days when we watched Voltron and Thundercats, those are the grand old days, weren't they? Oh yeah. But yeah, this is one of those sketches that's just very intriguing because yes, you all said exactly what it is and how it represents overlapping realms. And you could even possibly say it might even be an honest depiction. So, hey, Inferno224, good to see you. Well, that's a good point too, Lone Yukon, and there may be a lot of truth to that as well. All right, let's go on to the next one. And here you're probably seeing another one of those depictions because if you think about it, what you have here are many different forms of existence that are depicted on top of each other. And again, I'm always very impressed that you can actually get a sketch work like this that shows how complex this all is. And what exactly is this depicting here? Is this depicting a nexus point? Is this depicting the way that these lands are all tied together? And it's very interesting. I mean, you've got discs, you've got mountains, you've got overlapping lands. But then below here, you've got many of the structures that we're quite familiar with. And yet, most, if not all, these buildings, aside from some of the more current ones he pulls up, these are all examples of old world architecture. That's probably brutalist right there. But pretty much everything else, I would say 95% of it, you've got a lot of old world architecture. Yeah, I think you might be onto it right there, Falconing. And that's why I like to show you these images and get your feedback on it because when you see it with honest eyes and you're seeing it fresh and for the first time, I think the first impressions tend to be the best at it. That could be. There's possibilities in all that. The Trigon Empire. I will do that. Oh, yeah. No doubt about it, Chris. And that's one of the reasons why Detroit was on my early list for explorations. You know, I do need to take a closer look at Windsor, though, because I focused more on Detroit. So that's a very good point. Thanks for bringing that up. Okay, let's go on to the next one. And here, what you're really just seeing is an example of a disc pattern of a city here, but what's in the very middle of it. Now, I don't know if anybody watches or remembered the Outer Limits, at least the second incarnation of it, but I remember there was one very intriguing episode of the Outer Limits where they showed that there were pieces of land that were just dematerialized out of the earth and then rematerialized in space. Yeah, exactly. Oh, what do we got here? Okay, going off topic. Brooklyn Tower and how they incorporated into the Old World Bank. It's so obvious we didn't build these old buildings. You know what's interesting to me, Old World Billy Goat, is all the different responses I've seen from people trying to prove that, yes, we did build these buildings. And I'll just share my two favorites. And I poked fun at it in the Chicago video this last week. But first one, my best friend, sister's brother's boyfriend's brother's girlfriend knows this guy whose grandpa, whose great grandfather. Bottom line up front, nobody can ever give you a firsthand account. And for me, to get a firsthand account, just about all the buildings that I look at on the channel were built 1936 or before. About the only exception was the one in Moscow, and that was the Moscow State University main building that was supposedly built in the 50s. But even so, you're extending the first person account in terms of what you're viewing and what you're actually testifying about. And so that's something I find interesting with it. But the other thing about it is, can you really prove it with a firsthand account, or are you just going off of what you're told to repeat? Well, of course you'll get ridiculed for asking questions. And that's why I always encourage you to ask questions because that's the only tool they have. And here's the other thing that reinforces it for you when they keep saying the exact same thing. And I try to leave all those comments up on the comment board. And I think some people figure out what I'm doing and they'll delete their own comments. It's quite interesting. You know, I'll just send a little bit of a response like, okay, well, you're not giving me a firsthand account. Yeah, I mean, I didn't know your grandfather. I didn't know your great grandfather. And you know what? Even if my grandfather or my great grandfather told me about buildings, which I'm going to let you in on something they never did, I still would question it because it doesn't prove or disprove anything any more than you can say a single photo does. So, uh, Uh, we have another theory on that one, Falconing. We definitely have another theory. Are you really going back there, Eric? Come on. We don't need any more Admiral Byrd. Yeah, we'll probably be exploring him some more here pretty soon. Could be both. And the past and the future could be linked. And that's something else. Yeah, and I agree with you, old world Billy Goat. And I think that's one of the biggest examples of the evidence that you'll find is actually going in and looking at it. Hands down, without question. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Now, here I think he's just showing more of his capability, but perhaps he's showing a little bit more of a universal application of it, if you will. And it's interesting that it seems to show dimensions operating together here. I mean, here you see some of the complexities. Now, what really impresses me, though, is just the amount of detail and being able to keep all this straight and arrange and draw all this. I mean, just imagine conceptualizing this. Oh, yes, there is no doubt about that one, Maxwell. There is no doubt about that one. And I think a lot of it is it's not just that it's very strong, it's also the fact that it becomes routine and it becomes the path of least resistance for people. This is what I was told. The building was built on this day. There's no question in it. Yeah. Well, and I've tried to use LiDAR before, and there's been challenges with that as well, along with the results. In addition to analyzing building composition, and I've come to the conclusion that a lot of that equipment, I'm not going to say LiDAR is, but a lot of the equipment for ascertaining building composition is its Feldercarb. And if anybody watched classic Battlestar Galactica, you know what Feldercarb is an analog for. Yeah, and I agree with you. What's our real story? And I think that's one of the reasons why I try to feature on the explorations one, buildings that you can all still go explore physically, and two, buildings that you can walk around on the interior and you can touch and interface with those materials. And when we get to the end and we go back to exploring building one, I'll talk about some of the things that really stood out to me about that one. So, hmm, possibly. It's all connected at the end of the day. Now, this was an interesting one because here you got a little bit of a Tower of Babel that seems to be made almost out of buildings. Now consider that kind of practical application. And you talk about seeing the grid work in the maze here. So I always thought this was interesting. Yeah. Trying being the key word right there. Trying. Do they? Or do they want us to think that they have the tech? It's really intriguing that ever since these questions started being asked is now we see a lot of people backpedaling. And I'm looking forward to getting to the explorations in Eastern Europe because there's some real obvious examples there of where they're trying to convince us that they have the capability to do this again. And well, like this here with the DNA strand and how this is connected. And who knows, maybe this was the original concept for DNA. So, oh, what do we got here, Adam? What if some or all the eras are running concurrent? Well, that's entirely possible too, where we have everything connected past, present, and future. That is very possible. In other words, time has no meaning, that everything coexists. It's a little bit of a difficult concept to grasp, but once you understand that time is based on perception, and I'm glad you brought that up, Adam, because you reminded me I need to do an exploration on the whole concept of time. I haven't touched that one yet. Yes, either that or something else. So just remember, you don't talk badly about Admiral Byrd, especially during his ticker tape parade. If you're lucky, he might look in your general direction. Hey, Lori. Well, thanks. Well, and I think there's a lot of examples of that, Chris. And I think there's a lot of examples that the buildings are greater than time. And even the ones that we go in and explore, and a lot of the ones that are still standing, who knows how old they really are. Let's go to the next one. Now, I really like this one because this one is a little bit more of a depiction of what we would expect a future city to look like. Now, you might recall we had a lot of futuristic depictions from science fiction in earlier times. And have we really reached that? Has it really ascended to that? Or do we just seem to be stuck in a big time loop? Yep. And you know what? I'm glad you brought that up. What's our real story? Because the other thing they're very clearly doing is the renovations, the endless renovations. And I'm sure you've seen it yourself with a lot of the facading. And if they're doing renovations, what are they changing? So, Well, and isn't it funny how they always want to talk about rebuilding the Tower of Babel? It's very prominently featured in the film Metropolis. Who knows what time frame that film's really from, and some of the interesting images that you get in that. But like if you look at this one here, I mean, this doesn't really represent any kind of building. You could say maybe this was the supposed lighthouse of Alexandria. You got Central Park back here, but what do you really have? What's really going on? So it's an interesting depiction. It's an interesting possibility. I mean, just imagine a big, huge dome building, but we have seen this before. We saw this in Boston, where they had that great Church of Science that looked a lot like this. And remember, that was the add on. Hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. Oh, there you are again, talking about that Tim Robbins movie, Jacob's Ladder. Yeah, I didn't realize I was going to be opening the book on that one. That is quite an interesting movie. Very interesting film. And who knows, maybe there's a lot of reality into that one. So, eh, look, here's something you got to keep in mind. There's a lot of things that will attempt to divert you, and you have to stay focused on what you're trying to do. So, I'm not out to stump anybody. I'm just trying to find answers for myself and share them with you. Oh, yeah. That's true. That's what the official account says, Loose Sapphire. Yes, one could make that argument that it is. And I can see where you get that. Yeah, exactly. Renovations do tend to equal destruction. Yep. All right, so let's move on. And here's another one. And here I like this one because in the distance it looks like you do have more of the Tower of Babel, but then you have all these buildings established all around this. So, yes, 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 yes. Oh, here's a good one. What's your understanding regarding Native Americans and Tartarian unity? Well, my understanding is that Native Americans went through the same thing that everybody else did, and that for whatever reason, whoever assisted them when they went underground, the story of the ant people, there's a lot more reality to that because I think they managed to keep their legends intact and now they keep them close hold, and who could blame them? But I think within their legends, they have an idea of what happened in the past. Now, oftentimes people ask the question, well, shouldn't they have seen all this happen? Sure, sure, they saw all of it happen. But could they really share that with everybody? Would they be willing to share that with everybody? And did they not go through the reservation system? Did they not also go through the same re education system that everybody else did at the time? Well, we're told that they did. So is the official account lying? I'm not sure. I don't know. But would I trust a Native American account before I'd trust a mainstream account? Absolutely, hands down. And I think you do get a lot of elements of truth in their accounts. Aha. Hence the picture, huh? Well, it depends. Is the moon a three-dimensional or a two-dimensional object? Don't know. Oh, yeah. That's a good one. Yep. Killed or re educate, the same pattern of conflict, assimilation, indoctrination. And in fact, on the official account, President Jefferson even called it assimilation. So, once again, make of it what you will. But those themes and those patterns just keep repeating. And then another one of these interesting depictions here where we have all the images routed together. You know what else I find interesting though is here you've got the pyramid over here, and this kind of reminds me of one of those earlier atlases that we saw where they showed that. And then you've got all the flat discs around the larger disc, but then you can see what appears to be continents and other complexities going on. Well, and you know what, KC933, that was something that Tolkien, J.R. Tolkien suggested that the shape of the realm changed through the ages because of intervention. It's very interesting. And I did feature it on the Tolkien exploration, and I think there may be some truth to it. Fraggle Rock, that's a good one, Shannon. Yeah, it does kind of, doesn't it? Uh, Well, yeah, it depends. Old world hamster wheel cranes. There's many different accounts of everything, and I think a lot of it's just designed to confuse us and keep us from accepting what we have for actual accounts that might be a little bit more objective than what we tend to get. Well, and you know what? We were told we have so many different apparatus aspects of our current society that try to divide us. I mean, we can try to tiptoe around it, but let's be honest. Every time you wake up, every time you read a news article, every time you watch a sporting event or whatever, everything is directed towards dividing us in some way, shape, or form. Well, I mean, it's really, I think the important thing is that I believe everybody fits into the same pattern. Everybody went through the same things. We're just given different background stories. I could be wrong. That's just my belief since you're asking for what it is. So, oh no, Rebecca, you're not getting Neil deGrasse Tyson on this channel. Okay, it took forever to send Carl on his way. That's all I need is Neil deGrasse Tyson here. uh, yeah, and there are a lot of great ideas, and that's what we're doing is we're staying open to all ideas and just trying to explore them. So, oh yes, probably Adam, probably without a doubt. All right, I think that's the last of the artistic images that we're going to look at. So, give me 1 second here, and I'll pull up the next set. 1 second here. Present, share screen. And can you see this? Should have an interesting, almost true science fiction depiction here. Well, glad to hear that, Grace. Hope the days get a little better as we go forward. Oh, yeah. Always got those Cabbage Patch Kids, so possibly, or something else. Yeah, and isn't it funny how you're discouraged from saying that, KC933, unfortunately? Hey, Kathy, good to see you. I don't know if I said hi to you yet. Yeah, so they say about Galileo. Twisting my own tongue there. So, all right. So here is the timeline that I use to summarize the fourth era civilization. And before I go on, I just want to make sure that everybody can see this. Can you all see the Tartaria fourth era civilization? It's appeared in a couple videos, and really look at it as a subset of the five eras theory. Hey, Alpha Maya, it's good to see you. So, anyways, going back to the Tartarian era or the fourth era civilization, you have it broken down into three aspects. You have the inception and the rise, you have the ascendancy and the height, and you have the decline and the fall. And the overview videos really told this story from the inception to the decline and the destruction. Yeah, it's good to see you. Neo Rebel, welcome. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us. But what the videos really did, I know there was a lot of concern that, oh my gosh, this was the last Tartaria video. He's not going to talk about Tartaria anymore. Well, no, that's not true. Really, what it was is those videos that I presented, and I'm going to be putting them together in a playlist. They told the story from the inception and rise to the ascendancy and the height, and then to the decline and the fall. Hey, Pete, good to see you. Oh, yeah. House of the Divide. You're absolutely right. So make sure you go ahead and hit that like button. It's good to see everybody here. But if everybody would like, I'll make this one available on the Reddit site, and it'll also be posted on the members section of the page. But it's really just a depiction. It's kind of equivalent to the five eras, but this really breaks down the fourth era. And we looked at how things started with the initial rise, how it came about from the previous civilization. And then we looked at how things went through in their first battle with the adversarial force. And then we just looked at descent into madness and the fall. And we've looked at a lot of different aspects with that. So maybe. What you got there? Well, thanks. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Okay, hold on. Let me catch up here. Okay. Well, good. I'm glad. Come on, you know the cobblestone came first. That's what they'll tell you. uh, yeah, well, we get wrapped around the bend talking about that, so that's part of the issue. You're supposed to talk and think about it. That we are, Kathy, the age of plastic. Thanks for calling that out there, New World Over. And I think I'm going to have to do some explorations in Uzbekistan because we've looked at Turkmenistan a little bit, but I definitely need to get to Uzbekistan as well. So we're still jumping around a little bit. Yeah, no doubt about it. So, in any event, this reflected that, and that's what we told in those initial videos, and there'll be a playlist that accompanies this. So, you've seen a lot of these images before in many of the videos, and these are more of your classic, I'll say, computer-generated images that give you an idea of how things were looking once the society was starting to fall. Of course, we have, hey, Howard, good to see you, Howie. And of course, yeah, World of Substitution, that's a good one. Oh, the age of Portland concrete. Oh, yeah. Well, and going to that Polk County Courthouse in Des Moines, Iowa, yeah, there's no Portland concrete in that. Well, we have everything from biblical images or what we're told are biblical images, but maybe they're representing something else. And then, of course, we have more of the classical Greek images that show us a enlightened world. I had an interesting conversation with somebody who tried to tell me that I was implying that Tartaria was a utopia. And it's funny because I've never said that in a single video. I mean, how could it be a utopia? It fell. And they even had the temerity to say it on the video about the fall of Tartaria, at least Tartaria descends into madness. So it was pretty interesting. Like, okay, yep, we're trying to say he's saying something. Oh, yeah. Ashgabat. Yeah, that's a good one. And they are a misnomer, and I'm trying to make sure that we appreciate real art still. So, we've also seen these images and we've talked about looking for Sodom and Gomorrah, and there's even an exploration about that that's in the mainstream. You can find it on Amazon. It's intriguing because, surprise, surprise, political differences prevents them from exploring the Dead Sea to find out where the ruins may be. Now, what do we have here? Very odd on this one. Yep. Isn't it, though? Exactly. Exactly, Pete. A little bit of both. Oh, I think it looks a little bit better than Attack of the Clones because it's real. Okay, that was a bad joke on my part. So, yep, definitely a bad joke on my part. So, all right, moving on. Oh, yeah. Now, this is another image that I think depicts a little bit as things were starting to decline. And I featured this in one of the other videos. Oh, yeah. Absolutely, Cali girl. Yeah, because, now it's the diminished form of Portland cement. That's what we have now. It's just like your driveway, your patios, anything will fall apart. It needs to be redone. It's why the roads well, at least I can speak for the United States, they're constantly needing to be redone. Oh, we just used asphalt. We just used concrete. Sorry. I'll be getting to that. Let me table answering that. I like to answer questions, but I'll be getting to that one because I did do an initial exploration on that, and we are going to be getting to Southeast Asia and looking into that a little bit more in depth. Yes, artesian wells, that's a good example. Yeah, and I think a lot of us do, Neo Rebel. I think a lot of us do. Igloo inners. Yeah. Yeah, maybe it was. So we'll keep going. We've seen the fire images of Chicago, but yet when you look a little bit closer, you can see some very fine architecture that we know we'd be challenged to do today. And darn well, this isn't any kind of Portland cement here. No way. And then some of the more elaborate images for Tartaria at its height. And I think it's important that we hang on to what it may have looked like because no, it's not a utopia, but it is a better way of living. It is a way that we can live in balance. And remember, I believe it starts with the individual. It's not about trying to fit in with something else. It's about really exploring yourself and achieving balance within yourself. I believe that's where it starts. And you'll find that philosophy reflected through all the cultures, and all the major religions will tell you that's where you need to find within yourself, your spiritual connections within yourself, if you believe in that. But ultimately, what you believe in is on you. It's a self journey. Now, this is an interesting one I wanted to show. Oh, here we go. Good question. Why does academia ostracize free thinkers? Well, because academia is another institution, old world Billy Goat, and all the institutions tend to operate exactly the same. You have patronage, you have an assigned pattern for the way things are supposed to be, and you have dogma, and never between the three shall meet. Yeah, that was Sid Meier there. He did a really good job designing, especially the original one. The Blade Runner 2049, not quite as much, but the original one, yeah, there was some inspired designs in that. And they even featured old world buildings in the original Blade Runner, the Bradbury building. Oh, yeah, I'll be getting to W.G. Bennett. Thank you for reminding me, though. That's right. What's our real story? Just forgot about it. Don't remember. Yeah, precisely. And isn't it funny how they also talk about the diminishing quality of wood too? So, all right, all right. Oh yeah. And you know what, Sky Sage? I think there's a lot of indication that Avalon did truly exist. And when you look at a map like this, and we'll be told that this is a map, but is this really a map or is this a different kind of depiction? You can see different figures and everything here. And the older maps are interesting because I think they do actually show us more, because our current maps just show us political boundaries and capitals and some bare bones. But the older maps do give us an indication that there was a lot more to be seen in the world. And we're told that they did this at a time when people lacked imagination, which I always find fascinating. Oh, yeah. Yep. And you know what, Loose Sapphire? You've got that story repeated all across the lands, and you'll find the same stories repeated as well. Digging things out, rebuilding things in the same location, calling it the same building. Well, I don't think there's too much debating that, Neo Rebel. It's just a question of, is it magic? Is it technology? Is it misunderstanding magic or technology? No, we just don't know. Exactly. That's the reality at the end of the day, and once you go along with it long enough, that's how it is. Hey, new Streset, good to see ya. Breakout, welcome. Thanks for joining us. So anyway, just go through the rest of the images. We've seen these fire images before. This is an interesting image to me because I think this depicts some of the aspect of the reality of what the fourth era may have looked like, where you had some very elaborate dome buildings, the architecture that we see. Then you also have the indication of power generation coming from the atmosphere, power generation coming from the Crystal Empire, if you might remember that video from a long time ago. And then even other aspects of power generation and technology we're not really familiar with. So it's okay. It's okay. I'm sorry I'm doing one on a Sunday. I prefer to do them on Saturdays. So we just had a special situation where I wanted to get the overview videos out before we actually did the exploration. So, and I think we're having a lot of good discussion here on Tartaria because Tartaria appeals to all of us because it's something we can see and interface with physically still to this day. It's easy to find these buildings. What do we got here? I've seen it. I've seen some of the images of it and the way they build with stones. And I got to say, it's a lot more convincing than some of the, dare I say, reenactments that we do with construction somewhere in the States and Europe. I don't know if you've ever seen that, where they try to do it from the feudal times. It is interesting, though. And you got to say that there's something with a lot of the nomads or the Bedouins there that they have some unique capabilities. And I think they may have preserved something from distant past. Well, and that's just it. That's just it. It's just one of those tough questions, what exactly were their power sources? So, did you get your fingers whacked a couple times? Oh, yeah. Oh, yes, Neo Rebel. In fact, here at the end of the presentation, we're going to talk about it. So, yeah, exactly. But we've seen these images before. This is the image from the Greco times that show the 5 ages of humanity. And then here I wanted to get back to this image because the way a lot of these cities are being depicted as being lit. And if you can imagine amalgamating both a scientific and an artistic aspect of these cities, I think there's a reason why they appeal to us so much. And I think that's why we tend to see it in a lot of these images. And if you throw in the flying craft and everything else, it gives you a true appreciation for what the greatest capabilities of it were. And I think this is one of my favorite images because I think, here you see a nighttime setting, you can get an idea for how much power, how much capability was truly involved in these cities at their full height. Oh, yeah, exactly. And supposedly it was the first time that the cities were ever lit, but we know that's highly dubious. And also consider the fact that if you look at Tartaria overall and what came back from it, or at least what we were allowed to see from it, whatever the time frame was it the late 19th century, early 20th century, we can see that there was a lot of technology that was gradually introduced to us and some technology that was not, or at least it was introduced in incremental times at different times. So, oh yeah, that could be. That's a good exploration in and of itself. Oh, there's a good one there, Tashinori. Connect through massive tunnels beneath the frozen rock ice walls. That could be. It could be a physical or it could be another dimensional pathway. Those are going to be some interesting explorations to do. Well, and if you think about it, the sources of power are infinite. That's why it's quite interesting that we're always told that we are running low on power. We need to use renewable power, but then we need to use the same other methods of older power to provide renewable power. So, but just don't think about it. Just go with it. All right. And then some of these older images where you see the images of destruction. So, okay. Well, we've gone through all the main images with the presentation. A lot of it was just a reflection on Tartaria. We looked at what Benjamin Sack drew in the artwork. We've also looked at some other forms of artwork, whether it was from the past or whether it's contemporaneous. But I wanted to make sure that one of the things I wanted to pass on to you all is the ability to do these explorations yourself because if something happens to me, I get struck by lightning in the same place, I just randomly disappear, as some content creators do for reasons unknown. I want to make sure that all of you have the capability to continue doing these explorations on your own because I suspect that a lot of you are. And so what I wanted to just share with you here at the end is just how I did the original exploration on the building that really convinced me beyond any shadow of a doubt that there was a civilization that preceded ours. So, if anybody remembers, do you think I'd be joking about it if I was worried about it? Yeah, I might be. What's that saying from Gladiator? Death smiles at us all, and all a man can do is smile back, or all someone can do is smile back. You know what? I'm glad you brought that up, Arnold. I need to do that university exploration I've been meaning to do. So, okay, trivia question for long-term watchers of the channel. What was the building that I did the first full exploration on, and what do I consider building number one? I say it all the time, but what's building number one for old world exploration on this channel? Who's going to come up with the answer first? Come on. Yeah, actually, I have seen that, so. Nope, that wasn't it. Although that was a fun building to walk around in, and if I lived there, that probably would have been building number one. I'll give you a hint. It's a state that's a four-letter word, and it's the city of the monks. Oh, easy money's got it. You got it. The Iowa State Capitol. Well, have I ever said that I wasn't? I mean, I didn't claim to be Kevin Costner now, did I? Yeah, you got it, Jimmy, beside the Iowa State Capitol. So let's go ahead and pull that up. Give me 1 second here because I've got some simple images of it, and there's a reason why I wanted to share it with you all. Okay, there we go. So this is one of the late 19th century images of the Iowa State Capitol, and I'm going to tell you why I like this one. Because in this image, we see the great contrast between this incredible building that really it's a palace. There's really no other way to describe it. Barbie Dream House. Yeah, exactly. Uh, well, and you know what, Jameson? It's not just the main dome. It's also with the five or with the four other domes. It's the only five dome capital in the Union. So yeah, I was never one to do quizzes, okay? I always preferred open discussion. I always thought quizzes were a bit of a waste of time. And besides, the last thing you want is your students scared when they come in the classroom. I know other teachers who acted like that, but anyways, what I liked about this one is in this image, you got the Schmitz beer in this little wooden building right here in front of the Iowa State Capitol. And it really gives you a bit of a contrast. Now, you do have a nice brick building over here. Yeah, let's not go down that road, okay? I already lived through that many times, so we won't talk about that right now. So, well, you could actually find yourself a Gilded Age mansion there, Neo Rebel. Go back and watch the early exploration that you now have access to about the old world homes that are for sale across the United States. So, yeah, that's right, Adam Baum. And we explored the origin of Schmitz beer when we looked at Milwaukee. So it's all coming together. Oh, there you go. Oh yeah, the gas building. But anyway, back on topic. So staying focused here on the Iowa State Capitol. When I looked at these older images, I realized that you have these really shoddy buildings built around it, but then you look at the main building itself. And I think it was an old video of John Levi I watched when he covered it. And, Midwest Ruins, I think is what he called it. I'm shooting from the hip here, but he did a really good job of showcasing how the building contrasted with the really shoddy architecture around it. So we're supposed to believe that they built this incredible palace with five domes in a state that did not have a lot of natural wealth. All it ever had was corn. All we're told it ever had is corn and bluegrass and some other crops, if you remember those palaces. And yet they managed to pull off this very impressive palace that, if you look at it objectively, compares with the greatest buildings that you see in Rome or anywhere on the land in the middle of Iowa. And it's also on the most prominent hill in Des Moines, the capital. And Des Moines is interesting because it really means of the monks. Well, what monks? Was there a monastery there? Well, I suspect there may have been. There was a monastery there that very likely preserved knowledge from the previous civilization. And I think they tried to set something like that up, at least the people who were trying to preserve the Tartarian civilization. And there was something that was set up in Des Moines. And there's a reason why I haven't done an exploration on Des Moines yet, but I will shortly. Oh, here we go. Oh boy. All right. Well, it's good to know. That's a good one too. Uh, am I, or are you just saying that, Rebecca? Well, sometimes I just feel like I'm blathering, and I try not to do that because I prefer more of the conversations. They're a lot more fun. And it's been a while since I did, but so what stood out to me? How is it that this building really stood out to me? Well, if you go back and you watch that original exploration, it was by first examining the account. They said they built this building in 1871 to 1886. Doesn't make any sense. How could they have had the capability to do that? And you look at the construction photos, you look at this other one here, you look at how it lines up on the terrain and the maps, and none of it makes any sense. There are just so many questions that come up with it. One, how they have the capability to do it. Two, the construction timeline. Three, the composition of materials. Four, the logistics. These are all the things that people just don't ask. Oh, well, my grandfather's best friend told me that he saw it being built. Yeah, sure, sure. What's interesting in this image, though, is you do actually have what looks to be an old world building. And something about the Iowa State Capitol is they did clear a lot of the buildings and the houses that were right around it. So very fascinating account with that. But here it is right here, the Capitol and the dome completed. Okay, and now I'm going to show you the real piece of resistance here. So look at this one closely. So you might be familiar with this image. This is kind of the real, dare I say, smoking gun. Now, before I say anything, let me preface this by telling you all, not a single image proves or disproves anything. Because if you look at this image, you can see there's a lot of problems with it. Now, why am I saying that? An image does not prove or disprove anything. It does provide clues because we have to take every single image with a grain of salt. We have to realize that any image at any time could have been produced, altered, or doctored. It could be accurate, maybe. It may not be. Yeah, that's right. No hamster wheels. So how the heck did they do it? Maybe. Uh, no, I got depressed, including all those flippin' renovation photos. They're constantly renovating this beauty of a building. But then this image, which had not been previously available, was suddenly made available. Now, what's intriguing about this is the domes over here look a little different. The main dome looks a little different than what it currently looks like. Uh-huh. Yep, exactly, Maxwell. It might be a computer generated image. You just don't know. But when you take what you are given for facts, at least what you're supposed to believe are facts, that this was built by the good people of Iowa from 1871 to 1886, before there were Cyclone and Hawkeyes, and you look at a lot of the images of the building, I mean, look at how it's stained. Look at how it comes across. Are there aspects of realism in this image? There may be. There are hints, and there are more hints than you can believe that show that this building has a different history to it than what we understand. Oh, yeah, without a doubt. I think it's a way of getting free energy. But do we have the full capability to do it right now? No. But could we find it? Absolutely. Oh, yeah, the Vanilla Skies definitely gave it away. I love that one. Well, of course. Why wouldn't you be built in a log cabin? Or why wouldn't you be born in a log cabin? I'll just say built. Yeah, I'm giving it away right there, aren't I? Oh, yeah. You're right, Jamie. And everywhere you look. And just so you guys, and just so you all know, the Iowa State Capitol is constantly being renovated. So, yes, exactly. There's just all kinds of issues with these images. But what's really going on here? Is this an accurate image or is this a doctored image too? Because if you compare and contrast with what's there now, it doesn't look exactly like it, but we'll be told and assured that this is a legitimate image. So I just don't know. I'm not sure. But what did I say was the final selling point for me? I didn't need to see any of these images. Yeah, and you're probably right there, Miss Knows It All. That would make a lot of sense. Or all we're seeing are the doctored images. King Bob Vila, that's a good one. uh, Well, you can find all kinds of issues with it. What's our real story? But I've got a foolproof way that you don't need to overlay any images, that you can really know beyond any shadow of a doubt using your intuition that this building was not built by who we think of as our civilization in the 1870s, the 1880s. And you know what that method is? Does anybody know how I figured it out? What was it that stood out to me? Yeah, of course it is. And doesn't it just get difficult that they're always messing with it? Drives me crazy. Indoctrination, education. Come on, somebody has to know how I figured it out. How was I able to determine beyond any shadow of a doubt that this was an old world building? No, it was not by looking at the images, although they provided clues. What did I do that convinced me? What's my approach in every exploration? Now you're onto something there. Sky Sage, yeah, the pillars. Yeah, I know, I know. That's why I'm trying to make my amends now. So, uh, indeed, it was. For me, the tripping point was actually going inside the building and looking at everything there. Actually going inside the building and interfacing physically with the columns, with the walls, with the stairs, with all the carved marble. Exactly. You got it. I went there. Boots on the ground. No, that's all part of it. Those are all clues. Pictures, architects, historical accounts, those are clues. But really going inside of the building, really interfacing with it physically, that is the way you can determine if and when it was built. Now, there's a good example that came up in the Washington exploration about a week ago. In the Washington exploration, those buildings in Federal Triangle, most of them seem to be old world buildings that you can determine by looking on the inside. But if you look at the one they call the Ronald Reagan building, you can tell that that's a current building. They try to make it look like something that's old world, but when you look at the inside, exactly, the interior quality, because there's no way we can do that. Nobody has that ability. And of course, the explanation will be, well, they had artisans, they had craftsmen. BS. They needed to have a logistical capability to bring all of that stuff. It doesn't matter if you have the artisans and the craftsmen. You need to bring all that marble, 27 different types of marble for the Iowa State Capitol. You need to bring all the sandstone or limestone and whatever magical kind of concrete they were actually making it out of, and the specific bricks. There you go. Seeing, smelling, and feeling the inside of the buildings. And that's a reason why, and here's the answer to the test. No, there's not a test. But that's the reason why on the explorations, I try to feature buildings that all of you can still go to. Now, you may not be able to for geographical distance, but you can find buildings in your own lands that are local that you can look at the accounts, the questionable accounts. That's the initial indicator. And then you go there in person and then you determine it. Exactly. The arches, the sculpted details, it's all there. And you know darn well that nobody can do that today. Oh, they can try to fake us out. Oh, they can do a little bit of a replication. Oh, you can see some of the fake walls and the facades that they do and the really cheap materials that they try to use to make you think that that McMansion matches that nice old mansion building. But that's just it. Exactly. Feeling the energy in the building too. And that's what you're discouraged from doing. The whole reason that I don't focus as much on the World Fairs, I do talk about them, is that most of those buildings aren't there anymore. Oh, yeah, that's a good example. Yeah, go hit the Parthenon anytime. But the World Fairs buildings, most of them are gone. You can look at pictures of them, but those pictures might not be accurate. Maybe they were there, maybe they weren't. I can't tell you. I can tell you the Iowa State Capitol's still there. And you can go there any old day you want to, and you can actually verify its existence, and you can go on the inside of it. Oh, yeah. And you know what? There's going to be an exploration on that one, too, because that is another one that stands out. In addition to that really unique church that's over in Romania. Wait till I get to that one. So a lot of stuff in the on-deck circle, but I just wanted to make sure that I conveyed that to all of you. That is the way to do it. It's not any kind of magic or special ability that somebody has and somebody doesn't. Anybody can go to these buildings, explore them on the inside, and determine and make that determination that they're an old world building. Exactly, Timothy. And isn't it so much fun when you go with somebody else and you really share your observations and you get an idea of what you're really looking at? Oh, yeah. And I think that's the most important thing that I can convey to all of you. So if something happens to me, if for some reason we're unable to do explorations or whatever else, you still have the knowledge to be able to do this. And treat it like being an explorer, because that's what you are. You are exploring and you're trying to put the pieces together. We know that we don't have a truth told to us, but we can understand and start to piece the truth together ourselves. Yeah, isn't that truth? Oh, yeah. Well, and talking about how the quality of water was different, especially if you go off of the different the old artesian wells. That's a completely different quality of water where you can find those. I remember drinking that when I was a kid, and yeah, I can still remember the taste of it to this day. And that was a long time ago. I won't tell you exactly how long ago it was, but It's probably close to Kevin Costner's age. All right. So open it up here real quick for about 5-10 minutes. What did you think of this different format with interaction a little bit more and not so much of a focus on the images? Oh, yeah. Well, there are plenty of anomalies to find in Iowa. So can you do something right now to prove that you yourself are not a sophisticated AI meant to lead us astray? You want to know something? I can't prove anything to you. I could show you my image, I could dance and sing on the camera, but at the end of the day, you have to trust your own intuitions. You have to trust what you're presented to by anybody, any content creator, any author, any newscaster, any politician. It's all on you. You know what? I can't disprove it, and I'm not going to try. Okay. Well, I guess we'll just go back and forth a little bit more then. I seem to be getting some different comments on it. I'm not trying to play anything. I'm just giving you an honest answer. You know, I mean, I can't go to you physically right now and shake your hand and show you that I'm physically real. Anything you see is going to be on a screen projection on a computer. Okay. Just like what I see. Okay. Okay. That guy in South Park. uh. Well, I appreciate that. Okay, well, I think we'll integrate a little bit more into the interaction into future live streams because I really enjoy it too. Oh yeah, and you got a doozy right there too. In Austin. Wrong, the capital is Houston. Know what movie that's from? Oh, come on, JV. What's my favorite data line from Star Trek The Next Generation? Are you prepared for the kind of death you've earned, little man? And then he says it with a smile. I always liked it that he was saying it to Wesley Crusher. Oh, yeah, good old H-Town. That's right. Well, good. I'm glad. uh, well, they certainly like to talk about it, don't they? Well, that's what it all boils down to. So, as I always tell you, trust your own intuitions, trust yourselves. Oh, yeah. And that it does. So, dance or build it and they will come. Oh, yeah. All right. Well, that's reassuring to know that you all think and feel that. So, okay. Well, I appreciate everyone being here, and it's been a lot of fun, and I'm glad that we can continue these type of live streams. And don't worry, I haven't forgotten about the one that I'm looking to do with old world exploration again. We're going to take a look at Art Deco, and then we're also going to explore that lovely cathedral over in Spain and the architect behind that, because I did commit to do that. So, in any event, oh gosh, yeah, no, he really created a monster. Well, maybe we'll get around to that at some point, but in any event, this week going to be a special exploration on Halloween or All Hallows Eve, and then we'll have a couple others coming up. And then I'm going to be redoing the 5 Eras series, so look for that coming soon. So, yeah. Well, it's been a real pleasure, and I'm glad you enjoyed the exploration. I most certainly did. So, all right. Well, I hope you all have a great week and wherever you are in the land and whatever days you might be celebrating. It's a good week, and I'll look forward to seeing you soon. And as always, you are more than welcome to contact me either on the channel email, on Reddit, or Twitter, or wherever. And if you have requests, let me know. And it's always a pleasure to talk to all of you, and I appreciate all the input that you have. So, with that, I think we're going to be calling it a night or a day wherever you are. And everybody have a great week. Take care. As always, explore yourself and you'll restore the world.